Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. I don't know if anyone's going to be here today because my stream is all sorts of messed up because I had to watch this episode this morning instead of watching it last night, which I usually do. So we have a really weird stream time today. But that's okay because I can just talk a lot. But yeah, I love this episode. So we're going to talk about Best. Hello. And Seth, you guys are here. Amazing. I thought I might have to do this one alone because my timing is so weird today. But yeah, I didn't get to hear from you guys because I didn't get to watch it with you guys. But I really like this episode for so many reasons, and we're gonna talk about it. Hey, MH. So like we start off every one of these with just saying we're gonna talk about the HBO series. So there's gonna be spoilers on everything up until the most recent episode, of course, and then we will talk about the game up until this point. So those will be the spoilers discussed today. We try not to go past that, even though we're getting so close to the end of the story. There's hardly anything left to spoil, but here we are. I'm not streaming on Twitch right now. No, I disabled that on our last stream, even though it was working, and I just forgot to re-enable it. So I will be for Spider-Man tomorrow. We're going to try it again. But today, it's just YouTube. But let's just jump into this because it was... Actually, the restream thing's not even working, so let me just take that away. It was really cool. Okay, so this was like one of the first scenes that we see, one of the first images we see, which got me excited because the snow and the storm that happens in the game, it was a lot of people's favorite parts, actually, because when I experienced this part in the game, a lot of people were like, the snowstorm's the best part. This is so great. And I agree. It was a really, really good part of the game. Someone is going to be here. Hey, Bae, you got here. Were you able to make another great episode even without? Yeah, they were able to make a great episode even without infected. Yeah, so I want to talk about that a bit because, okay, you guys heard me in the last episode. I mentioned, oh, it's getting a little too long without infected, and I was getting a little concerned about Thunder. Sorry, my dog is bothering the guinea pigs. But I was a little concerned about the lack of infected we were seeing. However, I don't think this episode needed infected at all, and I thought it was really good without him. But if you look at the series as a whole, I still don't think there's enough infected encounters. Though we saw the clips for the next episode, and I did at least see a clicker or something. So we will get infected in our last episode, which is good. But I'm kind of like I'm like going back on what I said on the last episode that there's not enough infected because this episode didn't need him. I don't think at all. I thought it was really good. So yeah, so we get this scene set up that it's winter. It's been a really harsh winter, and we get confirmation from David about that and that it's rough for everyone. So I loved these opening scenes, and while we were seeing these opening scenes, we're getting this preaching, right? We have David in the background. So what is interesting, this is like our first clip of Troy Baker, which was really fun. Like we saw him really early on, and he was a buddy boy here. No, James is his actual name, but he was actually, he got a lot more lines, and I'm so happy about that. Hi, Kat, you ready for some more TV to make you cry? This episode, I actually did tear up. Hey, Dan, also. I teared up at the end of this one, like pretty bad. I was really excited to see it. We knew Troy Baker was going to be in this episode, and we were all pretty sure, like we knew he was part of David's group from just like the very first trailer. But seeing him get some good lines in here and be a little bit more prominent character than good old James or Buddy Boy in the game was a delight. Buddy Troy, exactly. It was really good. So we get, David, what was weird, not weird, but if I remember correctly, in the game, there was the same like posters and the same like very religious-esque like wording and stuff within the town, but we didn't really get much confirmation that David was like a very religious man or that he was kind of posing as anyone that's like a preacher. You did get that religion was part of the town, and and all that. But I really like the extra backstory we got on David, and I think it made him even creepier in this, because when he has this conversation with Ellie later, which we'll talk about, we learn that he doesn't even really believe it, which I'm just gonna start. I think the David in here was scarier than the David in game, and the David in game was scary. So this was good. I cried like a baby when Joel said, I know, when he said my baby girl. Oh, that's when I started losing it too. He was using his normal voice. Glad he didn't use his Joel. Oh, that would be so awkward, right? You know what's interesting though? And I know some of it's intentional. Like Troy Baker, at least when he was doing the motion capture, and I know this was a really long time ago, so he has aged. But when he was doing the motion capture for The Last of Us, he just looked so much younger. And I know they tried to make him a little bit more worn down here, but sometimes I was like, oh, he totally could have passed as Joel. Like I was, at first I was like, oh, he wouldn't have made a good Joel, but with that beard and like when he's like a little bit more just like dirty and just kind of like worn down looking, I was like, ooh, maybe he could have been Joel. Those blue eyes though, it would be kind of hard. But still. I read that someone went through unused voice lines in the game for David, and supposedly a lot of them are Bible Aha. Okay, so yeah, like it seemed like it was part of his backstory, but we just didn't get that backstory. And that's what's really cool about the series is, and people have talked about this, but because we're playing a game, we're isolated to Joel and Ellie or whoever we're like with, right? Like, so we don't get to see other perspectives, so all the information you learn has to be through notes or from overhearing them. Like the character literally needs to overhear them, or you come across clues. But with a series, you actually get to go with the camera crew to like other conversations, which we'd never get before. So it's really fun. But yeah, so they're using, what's the name of this place? Todd's Steakhouse or something like that, which is the same as in the game, which was fun. And they're using this as like their community center. So it looks like they use it for meals. They use it for Bible like study and teaching and just any type of meetings this town has, which is it. As soon as I saw this area, by the way, I was like, yes, this is where the fight is. So good job as always with this place. I loved it. So they have this whole religious chat, and I haven't rewatched this yet, but I did go back and I grabbed a couple of clips and images. And when you rewatch these scenes or when you go through, I started like looking at the other people in the town. Like it's really hard like to take your eyes off of Troy, or I don't know the actual actor who played David in this, but you're focused on that. But if you actually look at the other people in the community, you get like 2 or sometimes 3 different type of people, and it's really interesting. You get the very religious, like they're totally into it, like they're like their eyes are closed, they're listening to every word, holding on to it because they need some type of hope. And then you get people that are just like scared, which is exactly what David is, right? Like he's somebody you are like you're very fearful of him. Like a lot of the people I think know more about him than others, so some of them are kind of blinded by it because of this like sugarcoating of religion that he puts on top of it, but other people are finding out, but now they're too scared to kind of like do anything wrong or to speak up. So if you go through again, watch the other people like in the background. It's really interesting to see their like postures and stuff. I did read the resort venison. So yeah, I was gonna talk about this too. I see everyone talking about David as like the big villain in the game. I don't know because I don't play the game, but now I know. David, I'm gonna be honest, like David in both games, I think is one of my, and there's some big things you have to fight in the second one, but I think David is still my scariest fight. And I think it's because you're Ellie, you don't really have any weapon, you're super vulnerable, and like he has that like creepy demeanor of what he truly wants, which was terrifying. The building was burning down. Like I still think that fight scene was the scariest in both games. Okay, so I did grab this clip because we learn later on that James and David do in fact use code, right? And every time the word venison is brought up, like Seth was pretty much mentioning here, I'm pretty sure that's the code word for human meat. Because later on he says Ellie, he's like, well, this is deer meat. He says deer, you know, and I'm sure they have some elk and they do have some rabbit, but I'm pretty sure when they say the word specifically venison, that means human meat. And I just like that because you have this, like, even they're even positioned in the same way where you have James on the left and David on the right. And later when he's like, go get the syringe and the penicillin, he's like, it's not code, James. But like, this is code. This is code right here. They're talking about human meat. Gross. Scott Shepherd plays David. Thank you for that name. Yes, I'll try to remember that. I felt like the very naughty side of David could be missed in the game if you weren't paying attention. It was way more subtle in the game. I definitely caught it. It was more of like an icky feeling though. You know what I mean? Like I wasn't 100% sure, but I was just like, oh my gosh, I'm glad we didn't have to know what that was. But you definitely got that feeling that's where it was heading. In this, it was like, no, that's what this is 100%. And it was gross. So scary. Yeah. In both games, so to me, the fight, like playing through the fight, I thought the David fight was the best and the most uncomfortable for me. Ellie is the scariest. Okay, no spoilers, but yeah, Ellie's a scary person and you saw it here, but yeah. Hey, Cheap. Meeting ended early. Woo, nice. There's a very good short joke about venison here in the UK. Venison is deer, isn't it? Oh, no. Wait, what? Because I read that as like venison is like, oh, like a deer, you spelled it right, like deer. Oh, gross. Yeah. Deer is another way of saying, oh, you mean it like that? I read it as like deer, like my deer. Like venison is my deer. Like, as in people. So I love this conversation and I love how it mirrors later when he's like, this isn't code. Because this is code, right? Obviously. Gross. Oh, sorry for my mouse. So this is fun because we're going back and forth between what Ellie's doing with, you know, trying to help Joel. And we get some really like she's very, you know, she's still in this like hope that Joel's going to be okay. And if you haven't played the game, by the way, you don't know Joel is alive until you get the medicine from David. Like you figure it out when you ask for the medicine, right? Like she asks for the medicine. She's like, do you have medicine? So you're like, oh, is that for Joel? That's got to be for Joel. But like the player didn't know for a while. Where in here we're kind of going back and forth. But she's like, you can tell she's out of food. She even like saves a little bit for Joel, which is amazing and so sweet. Like because she's not giving up any type of hope for him and his survival. Yeah, Troy did an amazing job. But she, at this point, she realizes that she needs to do something because Joel isn't going to get better. So they're running out of supplies. So she's got to go out into the world alone, which is a big deal. We had this little scene where we see a white rabbit and she tries to go after it, but she scares it away. But in the game, there's this really funny moment. Well, it's not funny. Well, it is funny if you look at reactions to it. But there's a moment where we think Joel might die. We don't know. And then we play as Ellie. And everybody kind of freaked out as we play as Ellie. But the first thing you do is you see a cutscene of her shoot a white rabbit. So this was a nod to that. And it was pretty good. What's interesting in this one, 3 episodes of Unconscious Joel is not what I expected at the start of this series. 3 episodes of Well, it was only really 1.5, wasn't it? Because he got stabbed in Colorado. And then after that, didn't we get the episode with Riley? So that was a full episode. And then like half of this one. Because it was at the very end of the Colorado one. Yeah, the cheeks and the ears, noses were all red. Okay, yeah, so love the practical sets. You can tell the actors aren't acting cold. They are actually... So you know what's interesting about that, Seth? Like, it is cold there for sure. But also if you watch the behind the scenes, you can tell the makeup artist was applying a little bit more red to her nose and her cheeks. So it's cold, but it's not like crazy cold. You can't see their breath when they speak either, I don't think. But yeah, I just think their acting's good. But what is interesting with this Ellie opposed to the game Ellie is the game Ellie did get the rabbit with a bow and arrow. And she just seems a little bit more independent at this point of the game. Like, Ellie has already figured out ways to survive. She's already kind of figured out ways to get food. She's struggling still, but not quite as bad as this Ellie is struggling. Like, this is like the first part of Ellie going out, like the very first time that Ellie's going out to get food, where I think in the game it's kind of like she's done it a few times before already. So it was kind of neat to see that the different contrast there. Asked if she actually fell in the snow because her cheeks got super red right away. I think the redness is like mostly makeup. But she definitely did put her face in the snow. When did she get her bow and her arrow, right? Like, it never happened. But what I do like is we got this scene, which was like, so Ellie uses her bow and arrow in the game, and that's kind of when like you're kind of figuring out how to use the bow and arrow too. But I mean, you have it with Joel, but what's nice is you have this, and she's using whatever knowledge she does have to survive. And this particular knowledge came from Joel. So I really I think she's even wearing that same hat when Joel's teaching her, and the coat. Yeah, because it's effing purple. She's like, what does Maria say? It's not purple, it's plum or something. But she's wearing the same outfit, and we get this almost exact picture here from the same angle where Joel's teaching her. So I like how it's like, yeah, she's using what she learned. It's awesome. I get a little disappointed we didn't get to see Ellie with a bow. Definitely could see the yeah, so here's the problem, right? Like, she wouldn't have gotten enough time with it. Like, we got enough time with it because we were playing the characters, but like, she's still learning how to use a gun, sorta. But yeah, a bow and arrow is like incredibly, there's a skill cap, or there's like a skill level you have to reach for that. Eggplants, not plums. Thank you. Wrong food. Wrong purple food. She feels less competent. Yeah, exactly. Like, she's like, I feel like when we got to be Ellie, it was like a couple, like, she's already been surviving on her own for like a week. And this one was like, this is the first time she stepped out of that house. She doesn't know what she's doing yet. Why they never said the horse? I was wondering about that too, Seth. We never hear that the horse's name is Callus. I was wondering that too. They wouldn't even have to make a deal out of it. Just call it Callus. Like, when they get off, just be like, stay here, Callus, or do you want some water, Callus? I thought that was weird too. It was, I don't know. An eggplant coat. That's right. In England, an aubergine. It's pretty callous of them not to give the horse a name. But yeah, so I love this because, yeah, the Joel. So this is a little different too. So in this moment in the game, we do come across these two because of the deer. However, this is a little flipped, right? Like, Ellie goes to the deer, and I should have rewatched my playthrough, but I'm pretty sure Ellie goes to the deer first. She hears a noise, and then she has her bow, and she's like, who's there? So she's the one that's kind of being snuck up on, right? Like, they come up behind her. And in this one, it's the opposite, which I think is better because they both have rifles here. And I just feel like she would have been less threatening as one girl, like, so like, they're getting ready to move this, and she comes up behind them ready to shoot them. I thought that just, with power and guns, I think that just made for a more believable, okay, we'll back up kind of thing here. We got Shimmer, but no Callus. I know, weird, right? It's in French too. I didn't know that. That's interesting. It's eggplant. Say it like a French word. Aubergine. Aubergine? I don't know how to say it. Aubergine. Huh. I've never heard that. That's funny. Yeah. Well, we should have stuck with plum. But yeah, so that moment happens here, and they're hungry too, right? So they're out there with the deer. So this was I'm kind of going through these fast, guys. I'm sorry. If you think of anything, let me know. I just thoroughly really like this episode, and I'm just kind of getting through it right now because there was a lot of it very similar to what happened, but the changes that they made, I can completely understand, and I don't think we lost anything really with what they took out, if that makes sense. You can tell a couple of things that were kind of like abridged versions, though. like there was a little less time for things, but we already knew this was kind of an issue with this series in general, just because of the episode restrictions and how much time they actually had. I think they did a good job with what they did show in this, though. Aubergine. You're like, by the end of this stream, we're gonna get her to say this word right. But yeah, this is the moment I'm talking about. So when they were talking about venison, we had that code word, right, for people meat. And in here, he's like, no, just go get the penicillin and the syringes. And James is like he's like, this isn't, why are we doing this? Why aren't we just killing her? We could kill her, take the deer. Like, why are we going through all this hassle? Troy did a great job with his like facial expression here and no words. And the character in the game has a very similar reaction too. Like, what the hell? Why are we doing this? And this says a lot about David's character. And this is like the very beginning of like, oh, this is getting like yuck. I say yucky. I don't know, like perverted. Like, it's just, you start like being like, what's going on here? Like, why? And it could be like, oh, well, he's a religious man. He doesn't, he's merciful and stuff. And then like the more we learn about David, the more you're like, David uses his door-to-door preacher voice. Can I have 10? He does. I just need 10 seconds. Just 10. Don't shut the door. 10 seconds. Penicillin comes from fungus. That is correct. Yes. Yep. Yeah. It does make you question him, right? Because it makes him sus in both the game and the show. And that's totally fair, because like there's either very few or hardly no one left that are kind to strangers, because at this point it's survival of the fittest. Like, the people who have made it are the ones that do have some violence in their heart, that will not trust people. Like, and I feel like most people that are like, oh yeah, I'm a very giving person, yeah, I trust you, like, those people have died. Like, they literally have died off. Like, this is survival of the fittest. This is what, oh my gosh, what's it called? Evolution. This is pretty much evolution at this point. I wonder if James knows about David's inclination for young ladies. I think there's some weird suspicion here. I think James is one of the few people that he probably knows the most about David. But I don't think he knows everything, but he suspects it. And he's one of the very few people that almost question him, which gets shut down pretty quick later on. But it's one of those things where David has got into a place of power where you almost can't question him anymore. And you have to kind of either listen or be with him or shut up, because otherwise David will just kill you. I feel like James is on the way to taking down David and taking charge with his little bits of insubordinate. There's something there for sure. But it's like one of those things you have to pick the right moment. You have to kind of like seed like this thought with other people. But yeah, David just has too much power at this point. He is totally conflicted. Yes, agreed. So then we get the scene where they're chatting. Hey, Thunder. Which is kind of, this felt very much like the game. You got your fire little pit going. They're having this conversation. I like this because he talks about their similarities a little bit. David and Ellie to me aren't similar, but they're both survivors, and they're both very, they keep using the word like leader in this. And I haven't even thought of Ellie as a leader until this show, but I don't really want to say that. I want to say that Ellie's smart, and she knows how to survive, and she knows that when it comes down to it, like, she'll do what she needs to do. She's very instinctual too. So it seems like Ellie has she's trying to hold power here, literally holding the gun, trying to hold power in this dynamic here. Whereas David, he doesn't have a weapon, yet you still feel like he's fully in charge of the situation. Do you know what I mean? Which is another like creepy thing. Like he's so confident, it's annoying and it's concerning, like because that means it's worked for him so many times before. In the next scene with the daughter, the mom knows you can see it in her. Oh, that's a good point. So I was going to talk about something about the mom in that scene, but I didn't think of that, Seth. That's a really good point. Stupid Ellie ruined James's 5-year his 5-year plan. He like had it like on his little like whiteboard at home. David definitely feels like he thought he had all the power, and I think you're right about why. Yeah, like because that's how he's like, he got all this power. Like he's a violent man, we learn, right? Like, well, we know David's a crazy violent man, and we know he gets what he wants. But what's interesting is he's able, and he'll lie straight to your face, but he's using his words and like the false pretense of like, oh, God's words to manipulate people. And he kind of tests Ellie here, I think, a little bit with like the idea of God. He's like, well, I found God after the infection and everything like that. And she you know, she's like, F that. Like, you know, like, no. So that's not a way that he can reach her, right? Like, 'cause he can manipulate other people that have those beliefs, but I think he tests Ellie right here, and she's like, no, you know, so he's like, okay, I can't go that route. How am I going to do this? And he's trying to figure Ellie out enough to manipulate her and to, at first, have her willingly come to his town. He doesn't get that, so he does it by force. Is that what does inclination mean? Is that mean David is kind of a pedophile in this game? So like an inclination is like when you kind of like have a feeling like, oh, something's like, you have this feeling about something. But like, I mean, to say he kind of is so here's what happened in the game. Something very similar happened in the game between Ellie and him. Nothing fully happened. So we would have to assume that he has had some type of interactions or relationships with younger girls, but we don't actually know. Like, we don't know for sure, but it's most likely that's what happened. The latest film, the director of this episode, is titled Holy Spider, Ali Abbasi. And it's about the true story of a religious serial killers in a religious society. Oh, okay. Interesting. I think adding the clickers for David and Ellie to fight by the fire could have made David seem more trustworthy. So that definitely happened in the game, right? Like, so in the game, a lot of people, I did at least. I had this feeling about David. Like, I was like, I don't know. This guy's kind of weird, but also like we fought side by side. So if you guys don't know, while Ellie and David are waiting here, they get ambushed by some runners and some clickers, and they kind of have to work together for a moment. And you're like, oh, okay, no, maybe this guy is cool, because like he eventually you have to give him a gun back, and like he's helping you fight, and you're getting through this together. Like there's even moments where you kind of get reminded of Joel, like where he has to help you up to get to a higher spot, and so you're like, okay, maybe he's okay. Like this guy's okay. He's just kind of weird. But then like you get the rug pulled out from underneath you, right? In this one, you learn a lot earlier. They're like, no, like you never get the like David's trustworthy, I don't think. Like you go from like a little concerned to like very concerned, instead of being like a little concerned, I think we're okay, and then nope, we're concerned again. So, and I honestly think you really can't get too much of that because of time restraint. I didn't think the infected were needed here, though. I didn't miss him in this scene, which was weird because of what I said on the last episode, right? But like here, I didn't feel like I missed them at all. I didn't need them. You never got the feeling from the game that David had some sort of pervy inclination. Ooh, interesting. No. Okay, so like I did, because of like there was like two big moments. The hand over the hand in the jail cell. There was still that like, why is he doing that? I don't like that. Like there's like, And then, of course, when he was on top of her. Now, it was way clearer in this. But, like, in the game, you're like, I think he was going to do something there. And then when Ellie leaves, or not when leaves, but when she talks to Joel, and she says it in this, too, and she said, he was gonna, and she can't get the words out. I was like, yeah, something was going on there, pervy-wise. That was not good. And they really cleared it up with this show. Even more gross, he was a math teacher. That's concerning, right, Seth? Like, he was with children every day. Very, very concerning. Yeah. I was disappointed they didn't have the ambush scene because it was a key moment in a false sense of... Yeah, I could see that. Again, though, like, I didn't miss it at all in this. I liked the pacing of this. I am really surprised I didn't miss the infected here, but I didn't need him at all. At first, to have Ellie willingly, devotedly follow him, she say he's right, but at the deer, he gives her a look like instantly he decides he wants her. Yeah, and well, it's not just that. It's that, like, concerning look from, like, James and stuff. Like, what the hell are we doing? Like, this, so, like, it's, like, even if his own people are like, what the, this isn't good, then something's off. Agree that David at first to have Ellie... Okay, no, we read that. Yeah, all the infected are ransacking Kansas City. That's right. They're like, hey, the gates are open. I was focused on the fact that she needed to escape. Didn't even look deep into either of those moments. Oh, okay. In the game, the guy Joel interrogates says she's David's newest pet. And the pet thing is gross. And so they know, which is worse. I feel like everybody in the town in the game was kind of aware of things. Like, I feel like the people in the town knew that they were eating people. And I feel like the people in the town were like you were saying, like, newest pet. Like, they were a little more aware of David's... What do we want to call this? I hate just saying his, like, creepiness, but they seem more aware. Where in this, I feel like the town knows something's up, but almost doesn't want to admit it. And they're just kind of like, hey, the less we know, the more... Because they're, like, starving, right? So, like, even though you might think you're like, this could be human meat, but at this point you're like, but I don't want to know because I'm just going to eat it because I'm starving. Like, literally starving to death. I'm just going to eat it. That felt really different between the two, the game and the movie and the show. I took the line as an indication he held literally anyone captive. Yeah, I don't know. I got the creepiness. I got the, like, wanted her to... I got the feeling that he was going to rape her at the end. I really did. I for sure did. So... It's one of those things, like, if you pick it up, you'll see it, but it was much more subtle in the game. Yeah, even James is like, it's just another mouth to feed, which, I hate to say it, it does make sense, right? Like, and he's just like, but he even's like, even if you want, like, he's like, okay, well, pretend that you're being merciful. We could just let her go. And he's like, no, we need to save her, or whatever. Oh, the Pittsburgh people. So I have that in here. He mentions he's from Pittsburgh, which I think it's like, I think they just put that in there just to, like, hey guys, I know we didn't visit Pittsburgh during this show, but we didn't forget about it. We'll just briefly mention Pittsburgh in here. And then it fell in 2017 or whatever. And it's just, I just think, I don't remember David having any type of history like that we knew of, but I think that was just a cool way for them to be like, Pittsburgh, it's in here. The thought of it. They're so desperately close to starvation at the end justifies the means for them. Right. Yeah, so in the show, they made it really obvious, right? Yeah, like we'll get there. But yeah, in the show, they, like, confirmed it. It was like, yeah, he's undoing his pants. That's confirmed. In the game, it was like, you kind of had to pick it up and you're like, ooh, I think that was going to be rape. And it was just kind of like, I'm glad that didn't happen. But in here, it was like, that was totally going to be rape. Yeah, right there. It's creepy for you too. Yeah. Maybe I'm just not in tune with that kind of thing at all. Male-female perspective difference. I don't know, like, how quickly did you play the game too? Like, did you try to let yourself, like, I don't know. Like, I don't know. I felt it for sure though in that. Oh, I'm sorry. I just like this line. She's like, so you went from teacher to preacher because it fucking rhymes. It's like, so, but like this was that moment, like where I think where he was testing her to like, okay, does she have any religious background? Can I use this to my advantage to try to like lure her? And her response is like, okay, no, you can't. You cannot lure Ellie with stuff like that. You're not going to lure her with religion. Like that's a hard no. So I just like that line too. It was really good. And she gets her penicillin and she gets her syringe after David expresses that he knows that she and Joel are the two people that are responsible for the death of at least one of their members. I mean, in the game, it was the death of like 15 of them. In here, it was responsible for the death of one. But they made it more, they made that one death have more weight in this because we got to see that guy was a dad. He had a family. He had a daughter that's furious and upset and just like so heartbroken. So like obviously in the game we kill a bunch of people because it's a shooting game. So it's important that we have those game experiences. In this, he kills one person, but at least we have the weight of the consequences of that. I went through the game at a pretty steady clip. Oh, okay. Very few breaks. Yeah. I couldn't remember if that was just... well, we talked about it. I thought we were talking about The Last of Us Part 2. I didn't know you were talking about Part 1 also. No bricks! But we got a pipe, and we had the machete. So that was pretty good. Don't feel ignorant, Chi. It's just... It's some body language and actual language stuff that... Yeah, the body language was the biggest one. For sure, yeah. And like I said, in the game, it was subtle. It was subtle. And it, yeah. I don't know David had inclination towards young girls, but until we talk about it, I just realized in the end of the episode, David said, the fighting is the part. Oh, yeah. Like it was. Oh, wait, are you talking about like you didn't notice it until we talk about it? And I realized that you didn't get that from the show. Oh yeah, that was so gross. So here's what they really confirmed in this show. Pretty much, David wanted Ellie to be his like, I'm gonna say wife, because I don't know the best term for that. But the reason he lets her go, the reason why they go after her, the reason he wants her alive is because he wants her, which is. And yes, like that. Like he wants her sexually, which is disgusting. And so we do learn that. And he's very clear about that when he's having the conversation when she's in the jail. And she learns that right there too. And you see her like when she realizes that, and she even has this like one line where she just says, oh, because now she knows, right? And so then she switches to, okay, well, I'm just going to switch to being violent here because that there's no other option for her. She's not going to give into that. Ellie's not a weak mind. She's not going to be like, oh, okay, yeah, I want to be a leader. Oh, okay, yeah. You know what I mean? Like, she's not going to fall for any of that. So she's going to fight her way out of things like she always does. So there was that in this. And then, of course, when he's actually on top of her, we get three major things. You actually see him starting to go for, like, unbutton his pants. He says what you just said, which is the fighting is the part I like most. Gross. And then we also get the part where he says, don't be fearful. Love isn't scary or something like that. Like I think he quotes the Bible there, which is, again, him using religion to get power and what he wants. Oh, it was both. Since part 2 had just come out and it was just sitting on their shelf waiting to be played. Oh, gotcha. So they let him go, and this is, again, I just want to point out how much James questions what David's doing. He's like, "What the hell, dude? Like, this is not what we do. This shouldn't be what we do." He's like, "I'm gonna go to my whiteboard tonight and work on my 5-year plan because maybe we can cut it down to 4-year plan because you gotta go." This is what I have seen in game reactions. Lots of male players miss the really. pedophilic traits. Female picked it up quickly. Part of the girl's ick detect. Maybe. It could be. I know Miz isn't here, but like when I played that part in the game, I remember her response was like, and she didn't even straight up say it either, but she said something along the lines of like, I hate this part. It's so icky. Or no, I love this part, but it's like, David's so icky and it's like, it's so uncomfortable and I felt so bad for Ellie. Like, and I knew what she was talking about there. You know what I mean? So that's another, you could put that on the board of like, another female that picked up on it pretty quick. It's whiteboard. Don't be afraid. There's no fear in love. That's the line. Ugh, that's so gross. Okay, so she has her medicine and like, I think she knows it's not good. She knows it's not a good idea to run straight to Joel. However, she has to go straight to Joel because Joel's dying. She needs to get this medicine to him as soon as possible. And I think she's kind of hoping that penicillin will like, it'll almost be like an immediate fix. Now, while like antibiotics and stuff do start working immediately, you don't really feel the effects of it for a while. So the sooner she gets that in him, the better. But like, as she's like going up to the house, she's like looking around. She's trying to protect her surroundings, but she's not doing a good job. She's freaked out by the situation. She ran back home and she didn't do a great job checking her six and doing all the things that Joel has taught her to do, which leads to them being able to follow her. Dude has clearly never been in love. Ugh. Okay, so I clipped this line specifically because I love how they brought this up in the show, because do I know that penicillin would have helped something like this? Yes. Would I have known how much to administer or where to administer it or how often to do it? No. And I thought about this in the game and I was like, if I were in that situation, I would have no idea, even with the medicine in my hands, what to do. And I just like how she's like, where do I put it? Like, I wouldn't know either. I wouldn't even know how much to fill that syringe or how often to give it. And I just like how she's like, whatever, like, I'm just going to do it because I probably have to put it in, like, the best place to do it would be probably where the actual wound is. Maybe almost a full syringe full. I don't know. Like, I just look these things up now, guys, in case we're ever in a situation where somebody needs penicillin. She's like, insert the needle in his stomach. Like, what they have. Since we got the Diener Easter egg, I'm predicting an Abby or Owen can't. Oh, that would be kind of neat. Well, we already know we're going to get Ashley Johnson for sure. So that's good. I felt uneasy. Even without the pedophilic bits, the power dynamic between them is icky. Head of the settlement taking special interest in this new 14-year-old girl. Yuck. Yeah, it's gross. You were looking up dosage info last night. Tell us what you learned. Just in case. Because, Bae, what if you're the one that's unconscious? Then I'd be like, Bae, you should have told us. Oh, gosh. That's what I was going to wonder, Dan. If the bottles sometimes say the amount to give, and where to put it is totally up to where the infection is. So you do put it, like, right where the infection is. Is that correct? Bae, tell us what to do. I was wondering if the bottles say the dosage. That would be good. That would be smart. I thought, like, because you could take a lot of antibiotics and stuff orally, right? Obviously, like penicillin through a syringe is going to be much more fast acting, but I would assume it just needs to get in the bloodstream. But does it actually have to be administered at the wound site? It's supposed to be intramuscular. Oh, so butt cheek or hip. I'm glad she did it. That's a good, just trying to make Joel drink some. Drink this. Penicillin would probably kill me. Oh, are you allergic to penicillin? A lot. Do you wear a thing for that? You should wear one of those health bands. I had a boyfriend in high school who's allergic to penicillin. Yes, pigs. Squeak, squeak. Nope, not stomach. Definitely not the stomach. She didn't know what to do. It's okay. All right. So I love that. Thanks for sharing, Bae. Now we know. So it's kind of like an EpiPen then. You'd put it in one of those places. So this is another one of those parts where they use venison and we have the eyes like venison. And this is, again, so these two are, I guess they're cooking for the entire town. He brings the meat in and she's like, what is it? He says venison. But I mean, their looks say it all. They have an inkling to what this is. They either know or they might know. Like, they think they know, but nobody's going to ask questions at this point because it's like, what the hell else are you going to do? You know? And it's better to pretend you're ignorant about it and survive than it is to argue the morals of eating human meat, I think, when you're starving to death. It's in all my medical history, so unless I'm at a place where they can't get any info on me, that's... I thought penicillin is one of the ones you should wear a bracelet for, because it could be something... I could be wrong. I don't know. But I thought penicillin is something they might administer in an ambulance, no? Because doesn't it do other stuff? I don't know. I don't know enough about it. But I thought penicillin was one you should wear a bracelet for. We're just very sus-eye looking. Yeah, like, because they know. I didn't know anything about the human venison thing until later in this episode. I remember looking at something on another monitor when that all came out. Oh, well, I have the picture for you on how it was confirmed in here. Does anyone think that the chef lady looks like Yes, it does look like Mel. Oh my gosh, Dan, thank you. Okay, sorry, no spoilers on who that is, but yes, because I kept looking at her and I was like, why does this actress look so... Is it the actress? Something looks familiar about this. You're right. It's because it reminds me of Mel. You are 100% right. Thank you. That was driving me nuts. Oh, I want to mention too, I keep seeing this and it's so weird to me. I don't know if it's facial expressions or not, but there's a couple of times, and it's still happening, where Bella looks like Ashley Johnson to me. There's like something, I don't know if it's like a facial expression, her eyebrow, I don't know what it is, but every once in a while I'll like take an image of her and I'm like, gosh, she looks like Ashley Johnson here. So this was one of those images where I could kind of see it, and then there's one at the end where I was like, ugh, it's Ashley Johnson, which is fun. So this is that same woman. Now I'm gonna name her Mel. So the girl, right? She wants vengeance for her dad who's been murdered, and she immediately is already like, of course, she already hates Joel, doesn't know who he is. Already hates Ellie, doesn't know who she is. But he is making a spectacle of her, first questioning him, saying like, no, we should just kill him. And secondly, also like, because in his mind, he's going to get Ellie on his side. He's going to get Ellie working with him, and Ellie's going to be his partner, person, whatever. So he's making a spectacle of this whole thing like, no, we're not. Like, it's my word. I'm the father here. I'm the correct one. And if anybody messes with them or does something that I don't agree with, like, there's repercussions to that, right? I thought she looked like Ashley in this episode. Right. Okay. I thought it was like losing my mind. A doppelganger. I hated this scene. Slap her to the ground and immediately off her hand. Well, like, because that's the whole idea, right? Like, he gets away with stuff like this in a sense because it's like, for your actions, there is a response. Sometimes it's a punishment. Sometimes it's a reward. And, like, he plays in this he, like, weaves in the religious teachings to make it seem like everything he's doing is, like, for a reason. And, like, no, we're learning. And the mother gets up, like, hell, no, you don't. But then he, like, it just takes one look, one hand, and she sits back down. And at first I was like, oh, it's because of, like, how much power he's gotten. You know, you don't question your leader anymore. This is this is practically like the hand of God. Like, but I think part of that, her response here, and was it, Seth, was it you that mentioned it or punished? The whole, like, idea that, like, maybe she knows kind of, like, his whole thing with young girls, which is even worse. I thought the father thing was more of that pedophile inclination from David. Yeah, see, I didn't really grab that until you guys were talking about it here, but I think that's correct. This is one of those scenes, by the way, where look at the people in the background. So the girl's on the floor underneath the table, if you can see her there. So you have one person, the mom, about to question him, but she's getting put back in her place. You have James in the background who won't even look at the scene. He's like, he doesn't agree with what's going on, but he knows if he pushes back, he's like, remember we were talking about, like, maybe he's buying his time here. Like, he's like, okay, this isn't the right moment. James should probably lead this group. However, if you try to do that in that right now, you're going to lose. It's not going to work. But so he can't even watch the scene. You have a couple of people watching, but more like the younger boy in the background and the older man in the foreground here. They're just kind of like looking down. So they're led by fear, whether that's fear of God or fear of David is like gray. It's a gray area. However, they're scared. Props to the actor for taking on this role. 100%. He did such a good job too. And it sucks. I'm sure it really sucks to play a character that like is so gross and icky, right? Like you don't like that would suck, but he does such a good job at it. And I'm sure the actor is nothing like this in real life. And I'm sure he's an amazing soul. So, but he can act. He looks like he's texting. I think he's like on the counter, like just looking down. But I think the coat of David looks like a phone. I have to go now. Bye, Best. Have a good one. Thanks for hanging out while you could. Yeah, he's right. He's updating his whiteboard, obviously. He's playing Hotline Miami. Oh, no. Okay. And then I'm sure you guys noticed, but it was so obvious, like, how much more food he got, too, which was just, like, obnoxious. Like, it was just like, of course he got more food. Of course he did. Like, his plate is full. And everybody else got these bowls that were like, here's a layer of stew. And it was like, that's so wrong. Yeah, we called out the huge plate last night. Yep. Yeah, absolutely. He's checking LinkedIn. Yeah, it doesn't like his job. Ton of food compared to everyone else. Like, he has like a full meal. Living bread had another meaning here. Touche. Yeah. That's a good point. Interesting. It looks like a nasty... Honestly, it looks like stool. Stool? Stew? Not stool. That would be disgusting. That would be a nasty meal. It looks like stew. And, I mean, it wouldn't be bad until you know that there's human meat in there. So, maybe since James... It was so loud. What did I just do? Maybe since James is a sheep, he was waiting for someone else to push back on David. Oh, then James might do something if he looks safe. I could kind of see that too, yeah. Oh, the sound of them all digging into their plates. It did. It was so quiet. They didn't have any background noise. And because they're well, did you guys notice too? They were all waiting to eat until David got back. So their food has been in front of them for a while. They're all like literally starving, and they had to wait for wonderful David, the leader, to come in to sit down. Like, and this just shows again, like how much on a pedestal this man has put himself on, and how like people have followed. No, your father is still here also has another meaning. Oh my gosh, you're right. I hate it. That's a really good catch. Oh no. One ham eating that girl's dad. Yeah, James isn't going to act alone. And he's smart. He shouldn't. He shouldn't right now. Oh no, too much for buddy boy. Gosh, that's so bothersome. Okay. But yeah, so they had to wait for him to eat. And so like they were like ravaging. They were like, oh my gosh, I got to eat food right now. And they hardly get any food, which is just ridiculous. So here's where we get a little bit of difference from the game. Also, Ellie notices David's men while she's inside with Joel, and she decides to kind of do the same thing to lead him away. But what's cool about this part is when Ellie goes outside, she notices something disturbed the birds, right? Which clues her in that people might be coming. So she's able to see them from further down, which allows her enough time to set Joel up, which was really, really cool. I like this a lot. I thought this part was better in the show than in the game. So she sets Joel up here to protect himself, and she kind of briefly explains what is going on. And I really like it because so do you remember when we landed in Kansas City and there was the truck crash and it was like really crazy for Ellie and she's kind of freaking out for a moment, and then Joel's like, look at me, look at my eyes. He's like, you're going to get down low and you're going to go behind that wall. Do you understand? And I love this because this has switched and Ellie is looking him straight in the eyes and she's like, this is what you're going to do. And she doesn't say, hey, you're going to try to protect yourself here. You're going to try to, she's like, you are going to kill the person if they come down here. Do you understand me? You're going to kill them. And I just love that because it's like, she is very independent. She's very smart and she's very strong and she can be very violent, but she's very caring and she just knows what she needs to do and what she needs to say because she can like almost, I don't want to say she mimics Joel, but she's so much like Joel that she can use the way things that she's learned from Joel, even how to speak to somebody to help. So like, I think she kind of learned like, okay, when in a moment of panic, this is how you talk to somebody. This is how you get them to do what you need them to do. And she reverses that on him. And I like it. Oh, your father will always be part of you. Too bad they didn't have a human loving Bill leading them. Oh, they would. I know. Like, see, then that's a really good point too. You had people like Bill that was just like, right? Like there's so much contrast in this show. And they do that on purpose. And I really enjoy it because everybody's so different. I don't know if it mentioned it, but I got the feeling that everyone was skeptical that what they were eating was still venison when, like, and they saw the actual, like that's what I was saying. But they play that ignorance card because it's easier to feed yourself and not die than it is to admit that you might actually be eating people. The role reversal was great. Yeah, I really liked it. Mm-hmm. Joel is completely blind to the situation when he wakes up Ellie. Yes, and the horse is missing. Yeah, but she's like, this is what's happening. This is what's going on. And I liked this better. I really did. And she gives him the knife, which she does use. So then Ellie runs with the horse, gets their attention, and the horse, which I'm going to call Callus, darn it, even though they didn't name him Callus in this. Callus gets shot, which does happen in the game. I kind of like that Troy Baker got to do this here. I don't know why. I just think it's funny. He got some important parts, and this was one of them. So he's the one to take out Ellie on the horse here. And he wants to kill her. Like, he kind of takes... There's, like, a small glimpse of him becoming a leader for a moment when the other guys are around him, and they're like, kill her. And he's like about to do it. Like, he's like, gladly, I'm gonna take her down. And then, of course, gross David comes up behind and tells him not to. And again, he's like, okay, this isn't my time to push back against David quite yet. And she was thinking probably with that what Joel has taught her, knife is silent so others wouldn't rush in. That's true too. Yeah. Rip Callus. I know. It was awful. And yeah, we do. I just forgot. That's Callus. So later on when Joel finds Ellie's backpack, which I have on here, he also sees Callus. He also sees the dead horse. So he knows. Like, he knows it's not looking good. I forgot that he would have known that horse, obviously. And then we get this really gross, creepy moment where he literally carries her, like, and he, like, it's so gross. It's like this, like, I have my prize thing, and it's just, ugh. I just had to put this in here because you have the guys in the background that are like, this isn't right. Like, this is, what are we doing? And then you have gross David. Yeah. Awful. Yeah. Okay, so then I'm just jumping right to the screen. So Joel does, he understood enough from Ellie to really kind of snap out of it. And he's obviously not 100% in any way, but he has gotten a few doses of penicillin. And he has been stitched up for probably a while, actually, by now. So he's able to get through it and take this guy out. I wanted to know why, like, why do you guys think, like, this scene was like this? Like, why this guy's face was so intense? I think this is also more realistic after falling off a horse. Ellie doesn't jump up. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Like, I agree. Like, she was like, and she had this big old like hit on her head too, so it was bad. Why is he smiling? This was so weird. So, you know what I was kind of wondering about this? Because I was like, it just felt so intentional, but it was almost like, it looks like he was smiling. I don't think they meant for that. But do you know, like, in the game, when you do stealth somebody, there's a couple of times where you see the people that you're killing, their face, and it's pretty intense like that. But it doesn't look like they're smiling. So I don't know what was going on here, but I was wondering if maybe they were trying to do like one of those like stealth kills from the game. I probably look like that with a knife 6 inches in my neck too. Yeah, like maybe it's supposed to be like disbelief or something. I love that's what he's thinking. I get to die from Pedro Pascal. Yeah. I thought he was making an attempt to cry out, and his face just kind of locked it. Oh, maybe. Yeah, because he didn't do it in the throat, so he can't make any noise. I think it's just a weird angle. I think that's what I'm thinking. But what I want to say is it might be from like some of those really like close up detailed moments in the like from in the game where you do stealth kill someone. But it did feel a little like, oh, why is this happening? Just bad. My headcanon is now, I love Pedro Pascal. Yes. Okay, so now we find out Ellie's been, she's in a cage. And we have stupid David still trying to play this, like, trying to win her over. Did you hear me? I said I saved you. They wanted to kill you. And her response is like, F you. Which, yes, good job, Ellie. Very Ellie. So she gets bearings on her situation. She knows that she's in a bad... she's got to figure out something to do. But again, Ellie is always going to fight her way out of things. She tries a little bit. She like the most manipulation we got out of Ellie, which I think is funny because like that's all David is like you could tell like he's gotten his way with manipulation more than anything. Where Ellie like she manipulates him for like 0.5 seconds and then switches it on him really quick with the breaking of the finger. But her attitude is just, her acting right here is really good. The attitude's really good here. And there's a lot of duplicated lines from the game here. So they kept this moment feeling very much like that. But we did get to learn a little bit more information about David here. I love how, yeah, she isn't having any of it. Exactly. And Ellie, like, I'm not like Ellie. I would be too afraid to be that aggressive. Because my whole thing would be like, if I'm aggressive, they're just going to kill me. Or it's going to make everything more painful, right? So she's either very stupid or very brave. And I think it's just that she doesn't give an F anymore. Like, you know what I mean? Like she's always lives in the moment. And I don't think Ellie thinks too far in the future, really. Like it's always very much just like she has to deal with a lot of consequences because she's this type of person is what I'm trying to say. But I love this type of person. So it's hard to like talk negatively about it. They brought in a ton of the game dialogue throughout this episode. Yes, it was just enough, I felt. I really liked it. The scene in the game is over 2 days. Oh, I don't know, but that would make sense. There's a very large gray area between stupid and brave for sure. Yeah, Ellie really, she lives in that zone. Like, as long as I've known her, really. Ellie's just raw and she speaks her mind. Yeah, but it's one of those things where it's like, there's consequences to that. Okay, I don't have a lot of images from this scene because I had a hard time watching it as I did in the game. But this was, I'm really happy. Sorry, I keep hitting the microphone. I'm really, really, really happy they kept this moment as is from the game. I think it's super important that we see this dark side of Joel. This is not his first rodeo with something like this, but you can tell. And I'm going to steal this. This was mentioned by someone else. But I am going to mention it because it was a really, really good point. Joel is a different person when Ellie is not around than he is when Ellie is there. So We saw a very similar tactic to this when we had the funny couple, remember, in the cabin in the hand-fly zone, the cabin in the wilderness, and he kind of like did this, but not violent, right? He's like, you better show me where this is on the map, and then I'm asking her, and your answers better match. Well, there was no violence in that because Ellie was around. They even knew they weren't in danger, right? Like, they literally laugh at him, which is like almost insulting to Joel. But with Ellie not there, he's willing, and like, he does not hesitate to go the distance that he needs to get this information to, again, save the one that he loves. So, super happy this was in here. It was very much like the game. It was just as violent. I don't think they changed any lines here, if I'm not mistaken. You were so excited for this. Yeah. I was a little worried they weren't going to include the tortures. Yes. I'm glad we got it too, because it speaks volumes for like who Joel is. So, although the scene was almost identical, I prefer the interrogation scene in the game more because Joel doesn't yell and just has this cold. That's a good point. That's very true. And I can see how, like, when Pedro Pascal was reading these scripts, now, if I remember correctly, you guys said that they did not watch the game. They did not watch the cutscenes. So this was just his take on it. I could see why he added that more aggressive tone. But that's a good difference to notice. Before you stab me, can I get an autograph? Smile death scene. And curtains. I was actually worried they might cut it because it included that line in the cabin couple scenes. Yeah. Waste of precious duct tape. He never uses it. It's fine. You could have used it to make a sharp pipe. Yeah, in the game it felt like routine for Joel. Like, it did. I mean, to me it felt like a routine here. I know he was mad. Like, he was mad. He was very concerned. But it felt like routine for me. Here, he didn't hesitate on anything. He didn't. So I liked it very much. Glad they kept it. So babe, if you missed it, this is what Ellie saw. So as Ellie's trying to find a way to get out, she notices that there's pieces of human body on the floor. So she very quickly puts it together that they're feeding their community people. And she's scared by it. Like, that's a scary idea. He plumbed the depths of humanity here. Oh gosh. Yeah, I didn't see this part. Yeah. So she legit just sees an ear. She's bent down, trying to undo the door, the bolts and the nuts from the door, and that's what she sees. And then she's staring at it. So then David sees it and he's like, well, I'll tell you this truth. And he just straight up tells her everything because I think at this point he realizes he can't bullshit with her in any way. And because Ellie is she's just a very strong-minded person. So he just straight up tells her what's going on. Buddy boy didn't clean up his mess. Buddy boy, come on. I know. Until the year I was worried they would written out the cannibalism. I love the way they introduced the cannibalism here. I love the venison code word thing. I love the concerned looks from people. I think it was introduced really great here. I'm glad it was all in here. Thanks for the screenshot, Kat. Sorry. So she, like I said, also in the game she eats the food and in here she doesn't, which I think I love it because she's super disgusted in this. However, in the game she eats the food because she trusts that it is food, deer, because she's so hungry. And we know she's actually super hungry here because remember she was eating her little jerky and then she's she eats it so fast and she keeps this little piece for Joel and she puts it on his chest. So she's starving. So this is it reminds me when I was playing Uncharted and Nate needed water and I'm just get her some food. I wanted her to eat it because I did think it was actually deer because he straight up says it's deer, not venison. But it doesn't matter. She didn't. She kicked it across the floor. David left it there as a bad dad joke. He was going to come and say, hey, Ellie, can you lend me your ear? Gosh, that's awful. You can make good stock out of that. That's probably what they were doing. They had all the stock pieces and they were picking it up and one ear just boop, plopped out. Something about that screenshot was so eerie. But yeah, so she doesn't eat the food here. So I just want to point out, she did in the game. Okay. So this creepy interaction, this, imagine the life we could build. It was so gross. I don't really want to talk about it. We've talked about it so much already. But he does touch her hand like this in the game. The same type of feeling you felt when you watch this, you get from the game. And she plays him, like I said, for like just a second. She manipulates him and she like puts her hand on top, but it's not like as a gesture of, oh, I'm accepting what you're saying. It's a, hey, I need a better grip to break your finger. The next line, he could have given her the food and said, here you go. You guys are awful. You guys are just the worst, but the best. I love it. So I don't know about you guys, but I actually said this line with Ellie because I was so excited for this line because I love this line. It's like one of my favorite lines in all of The Last of Us. She's like, Ellie. He's like, what? He's like, or my name's Ellie. Like when she does the whole like, you could tell him that Ellie's the little girl who broke your finger. And I just loved it. And the way she did it here was really good. Bella did such an outstanding job here. So good. It was so good. I loved this part. Very happy about it. She looks like Pedro there? Because she's saying the F word there. I don't see Pedro, but it is a kind of a funny screenshot. Just with the blood on her face and everything too. It was really good. Really good moment there. This is one of the best lines Ellie says in both. I'm with you. I think it's so good. I love how this was word for word. It's really good. So then we get like Joel here. This is a stupid thing to be disappointed, but I wasn't disappointed, but like I was like, oh, I kind of missed it. I was a little sad. There wasn't more Storm. And I know that like adding that would have cost like stupid amounts of money and it wasn't really needed because I think they filmed this in Calgary. And so there was snow on the ground and then they had like big old wind, like fans to make wind and some snow. But like in the game, it's a crazy storm and it's just so neat. Like because you're like going through the town and you know there's enemies, but you can't see them. And they can't see you. So if you do it right and you stealth around correctly, like you can get the jump on them. And I just really love the storm in the game. Kind of sad it wasn't so stormy here. But what I will say is it makes for playing this part in the game. Like even if you've seen this show and you go back and play the game for the first time, you're still going to love that whole part because it is very visually amazing in my opinion. So something about screaming and swearing at someone with a smashed nose and blood streaming out looks badass. 100%. 100%. Yeah, and she knows at that point she's like screwed, right? Like there's like nothing that she can do. Like that was a bad call to anger David. But what was the other option? Please him? No. Definitely, yeah, I missed the storm. Yeah. Definitely added drama to the moment in the game. But yeah, but at least it like still gives like those of you who decide to play, or those are the people, anyone who decides to play this game after watching this, it's a part you get to look forward to because it's really good. It's really good. And you weren't like it'll just add on to what you love. Oh, the bell. Oh, the bell was so amazing. That eerie bell. No storm. Literally unwatchable. 0 out of 10. She knows. Anyways, so Joel comes across her backpack, and now I'm realizing Callus, the horse. So he's like, he knows she's here, but this is when you'd really start to worry, right? Like, I didn't take a screenshot of it either. But so you get confirmation on Ellie's side and on Joel's side in the game as well, and in this show from Ellie's side and Joel's side that yes, they're eating people because you find hung up bodies like meat of people, of humans, and it's so disturbing. And I love it because they're literally hiding out in like they're not even that hidden. They're just like in a garage area where there's like camping stuff. And so it tells you a lot about these people really fast. There will be another snowstorm soon-ish. Start of season 2? I can't understand. They don't want to repeat it. Oh, well, and like, it's got to be so expensive, right? Like, if you can't actually, like, film in a snowstorm, which would be incredibly challenging on its own, like, creating a fake snowstorm, I'm sure is very pricey. It's not needed. I really liked it in the game, and it was so cool. So, I'm glad that, and that's not necessarily a bad thing, because that makes the game, like, have these special moments that you're like, you got to play the game for that moment. It's a good one, you know? I did love the constant ringing of the bell as you're searching for Ellie. I loved it too, because it actually gets louder when you're with, like, so in certain moments it gets louder, like you're with Ellie and it's loud, and as you're Joel, you hear it and you're like getting further into the town and it gets louder, so you're like, we're getting close, we're getting closer to Ellie, and you get really excited. But it also has this like really eerie, not eerie like ear, like you guys keep bringing up the ear, but it does have this eerie feel to it too. Like you're like excited and you're like, you want to save Ellie, but at the same time you're like, David and his community's insane. The Pittsburgh people in game hunted people as well. I don't know if they ate them, but they definitely hunted people. Yeah, and these are Pittsburgh people, so if that doesn't tell you anything. Should tell you that Pittsburgh people are crazy. Just kidding. Of Assassin's Creed. Oh, I haven't played Assassin's Creed. Oh, but they like, that's the alarm they'll sound off. That makes sense. So this seems very similar, where we have Buddy Boy and David, and she gets David, again, this is like, so Ellie learns very quickly, in my opinion. So she learns what she can from Joel, right? She learned how to shoot the gun. She's learning how to be safe. She learns how to maneuver through areas. She learns how to kill. She learns how to, like, remember, like, even when I said, like, she's like how she spoke to Joel, like, eye to eye, like, this is what you're going to do. She's learning how to, like, doctor people up in a sense, like, medically. And she's learning to manipulate people here a little bit too, because she kind of messes with David here. And she's got nothing left, right? Like, she can't do anything else. She's about to die. So, like, might as well, like, say your secret that you are infected. And it gets him to hesitate just long enough for her to escape. So I like how she turned that on him real quick too. The whole, like, at this point, she's forced to use her words to combat, in a sense. And I like it. James was not into this. He keeps looking at David. He does, however, he kind of like knew what to do at the same time, which freaks me out. So I'm kind of wondering, like, did they kill other people? Like, did they murder people, or were they just eating people that died? There's a difference. Like, if somebody dies and you're like, well, we'll use their meat. Okay. But are you killing people? Because, like, the way this was, like, organized is, like, they've done this before, maybe? I don't know. I didn't like that. But, yeah, he's, like, a little, like, I'm supposed to do what he says, but I don't want to do this. Yeah, and no one knows if she can infect people, so might as well try it. I thought in the game it was a machete in the game. It was a machete in the game. But it kind of makes sense that they would have a cleaver, because, like, this town isn't struggling for weapons. Like, Joel should go loot every single one of those knives. Look at them all on the wall. This was a resort, right? So they have things like knives. They had forks and real plates and stuff too. You know what I mean? So they would have a cleaver for me. Makes sense. Yeah, okay. I'm 1000% sure that the people who know did kill people. Oh gosh. They probably killed they totally went Pittsburgh on people. So when I saw the scene, okay, so you guys all saw it, and she hits Troy Baker with the cleaver. Gosh, it sounded like an episode of Clue. Troy Baker found in the kitchen with a cleaver. So when I saw this, like, I was kind of sad to see his character die. However, my first like reaction right after that was like, that must be so cool to die. Like, if you were gonna die in the series, or if you were gonna be in the series, how cool would it be to die because Ellie killed you? Like, that's a cool way to go out. And then I was happy to hear that on the recap afterwards, after the show, like, he was in fact like, he's like, it looked pretty cool. I was like, it did look cool. So I'm glad he had that like optimism about his death scene. They went Pittsburgh. James is insane, but wait a minute, etc. It's more like, this, yeah, like, it's like, I hate doing this, whatever kind of a thing, right? Yeah, he talks about it afterwards. Yeah, so, like, I'm really glad, because it was that. It was cool. It sucks he had to die, but also, I mean, he was playing Buddy Boy, so it's fine that it was cool, all right? I'm glad. If I had to be in a show that, like this, it would be amazing to die by the main character. Okay, and then we go back into Todd's, and this was so good. It felt so much like the game. I say that a lot during these, like, reviews, but I think those moments are really important, just to kind of, like, bring us back. I mean, everything from the red carpet and the red, like, coverings on the cushions and the fire spreading. I really like, too, how David here, like, the actor, he kind of, like, had this, like, so Ellie throws the torch, which was kind of like I don't know, it's kind of like a stupid move. I thought she was going to, like, try to burn him or something. I don't know if she was trying to set the place on fire, but that was the result. And which was different from the game. I think David knocks over, like, a lantern when he first confronts her in here. What I did like, though, is how David's character, he's kind of torn for just a moment on, like, if I let this fire spread, this place is going, like, he kind of looks at it like, this is bad, I should take care of it. Like, it's not good for my community and the townspeople if this place gets lit on fire. However, naturally, I'm a very, very violent person, which we learn about him. Also, I've totally forgot to mention that he's not religious, like, at all. Like, and that was a total facade. He was just using it to, like, get power in a sense, which, crazy. Really good detail in there. Who got a better death, Perry or James? Oh, they were both so good. I forgot. Yeah, it seems like they're, like, kind of letting the characters die out in such cool ways. Rip curtains. Yeah, they did nail this whole part. David is a sorry boss fight. Get out of here. He was such a good boss fight. I was going to ask about that, Punished. I thought it felt like it was actually there. Like, the fire freaked me out. I was like, why does it look like this building's actually on fire? Fire isn't very Christian. His desires and his desires overrode his sense of leadership or survival. Yeah, like that violent, like, he was saying he was a very violent man, and he has his, like, total, like, yeah, like, all of his desires, he's like, whatever, this is what I'm going for right now. Like, and he made up his mind. Like, he did, like, contemplate for a second whether or not he should, like, take action to save this building, but he, like, made the choice. Forget the community. This is what I want, whether it's to physically have her or to kill her or both, whatever. He's such a gross character. The shot before Ellie jumps him is fire. So I want to talk about the game a little bit about this for those of you who haven't played, because it's so real. It's so good. So it looks pretty much exactly like this. And you're creeping around, and, like, you have David walking around with the machete, and you're, like, trying to stay quiet. However, there's, like, broken glass and plates on the ground that you're trying to avoid. So, like, if you walk over those, they'll alert him. It's terrifying. And, like, what you have to do is you actually have to get behind him 3 times to take him down. And each time it gets a little tougher because David kind of changes up what he does. But obviously hurting him 3 times in this would have been overkill. Like, it was overkill in the game, but he's a boss, right? It's very familiar of other games where you have to hit a boss 3 times for them to go down. I thought it would have been cool if Ellie would have, like, burned him once by being sneaky, and that would have started, then, like, let go, or, like, him grab it and throw it or something, which would have been like, oh, that was 1 hit. The next one is a stab. Like, I thought they might do something like that, but I was totally okay with them just doing it like this. You thought it was off, not casting light correctly. Really? I didn't catch that at all. I thought it was casting light great. So while David's walking around, he has a couple of lines, that stupid confidence that he has, like the same confidence we saw when he was talking with Ellie with the fire pit, you know? He has that here where it's very serial killer feeling, right? Like whenever they're like when the serial killer is walking and the person they're chasing is like panicking and running and trying to figure out what to do, and they just have this like confidence about them, this slow walk, like I'm going to get what I want kind of a thing. I liked how he had that here. He has it in the game. And then I have this picture because this exact sign is in the game. When we are in need, he shall provide. And I like, this is both like he as in God, but also he as in David, which is like, he shall provide, like we're in need. He started providing human meat. Like it's a good sign. But like, this was one of the clues in the game where you're like, ooh, this was like a culty religious group. The scene wasn't that realistic. In the game, David killed Ellie like a dozen. That's so true. Sorry to laugh. Like, you're so right. That's me. I saw Ellie die like 4 or 5 times. What the heck? Yeah, the serial killer monologue is so good though. And like most of these lines are very much from the game. Like, no one infected fights this hard to stay alive. I will say I miss, what's his name? Nolan. Not Nathan Nolan. Something Nolan. I think I'm saying Nathan because he also does the voice for Nathan Drake. But he has this like raspiness to his voice when he voices David that just like increases the creepiness of David tenfold, in my opinion. This guy doesn't quite have that voice. However, his acting is great. Nolan North, thank you. Yes. What he does with his voice when he voices David is, if you haven't heard him, what David sounds like in game, you should go listen because it's eerie. Ellie. Yeah, that thing. Oh, so creepy. Like a child, like playing hide and go seek. I hate it. It's like the Big Z boss fight in Manhunt. Stealth. Yeah, like 3 times. Like, that's a thing, right? This version show of David touches the raspiness a few instances, but yeah, Nolan's was just so good. Yeah. Oh, the guitar notes when Ellie kills David? I'll have to go back and listen. I don't know if I tuned in on those. Rule of 3 is present in so many tropes. Yeah, game design, music, jokes. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Okay, but yeah, so this scene was, I loved it. I loved it. So good. She does get one good, I love how she comes up behind him though, right? To get that stealth kill, which she needed to do. But he's not quite down yet. And then we get the following like eerie, creepy, gross scenes from David. And we talked about this a lot already. Also, I love how you get to see that his broken fingers are taped together. Good job, detail. But like, I have that line. There's no fear in love. Yeah. So this was gross, and we talked about it a lot already. But like I said, in the game, I just felt like it was so much more subtle. Whereas in here, it was like clear as day that, he's a, pedophile, gross old man, and he was going to have his way with Ellie. So yeah. Interesting change there. I think it's because, I missed it. Oh, because the guitar usually relates back to Joel, and in this one, Joel doesn't find her body or find the body. Yeah, so this was a big difference too, because in the game, Joel comes into the burning building, and the lines are very similar, but he kind of finds her, like, on like when she's doing her crazy killing spree on David. And so that means that Joel saw what Ellie had to do. And in this one, Joel doesn't see what Ellie actually did. He just knows she's very broken. And obviously she went through hell, like literal hell, like the place is on fire, right? Who broke his fingers? Ellie broke his fingers. Remember? She's the little girl that broke his fingers. I think they hit this moment from Joel because they've had a theme of Joel and Ellie not having their necessary cruelty show. Yeah, so that's another thing too. Like, so neither of them have seen each other at their worst, right? Not yet. They haven't. But they talked about this in the post show, and I do like this idea. Okay, Ashley Johnson, right? Can you guys see it? This looks so much like Ashley Johnson. It's freaking me out. Like, I just think it's so weird. Sometimes she looks so much like her. Come on, Ellie, we gotta go. Chop, chop. Stop. Punished. Oh my gosh. No. But anyway, so I thought it was actually really kind of sad that she eventually stopped and had to get herself to go outside. You guys are leaving me in stitches. So bad. So bad. But anyways, I had to grab this one picture because it looks so much like Ashley Johnson, and I was like, what the? I loved this scene, though. Like, I can't tell you which one is better. Joel finding Ellie inside with David's body and, like, seeing what she's done, or finding her out here. And like I said, they said at the ends of the series, and I like this, that Joel didn't make it in time to save Ellie from the violence. Where he kind of did a bit in Kansas City. She had to shoot the boy, but then Joel, like, finished him off. So he kind of saved her from that violence, but he didn't make it in time to save her from the violence here. So she experienced it fully, and she's really broken. And it's like, and they made this point, it's like, is her being broken permanent or not? But what he is here to save her from, he didn't save her from anything physically. He's here to save her emotionally. And I really like that. I like how clear that is. In the game, we get this really, like, tender moment where Joel has Ellie, I think, like that in his hands, and they're talking, but we don't know what they say. So you can't hear any of the conversation. And it's not really needed, but you do hear him say, like, baby girl, which they did here, which was, like, the most important thing to hear because he hasn't called anyone baby girl but his daughter. So, like, that's a huge jump for him and a huge realization of how much he actually cares for Ellie. But, yeah, it's an interesting switch. I prefer the game version where they see what she's done, but they do this version in the show so well. I can't tell you which one I prefer. But yeah, I can't argue that. They did this really well. Man, I wonder what Joel would have done to David. Well, that's the thing too, is like Joel's, that's another thing I want to point out. I really like how much Joel is struggling here. Like, in the game, he kind of bounces back pretty fast after receiving his medication, which he has to because you go and play Joel again. So if he was, like, limping the entire time, I think it would have taken too much away from the gameplay. Like, it would have been one of those moments where you're like, because they've done that in games, right? Like, where the character is, like, limping and struggling the whole time and, like, oh, you can't run now because you're injured, and you're like, oh, this part sucks. I don't think they wanted that, so they kind of, like, got Joel kind of up and running again pretty quick. But they didn't need to do that here because the player wasn't playing, so Joel's still healing a lot. So I like that in this, it was okay for him to be still so injured. But in the show, we didn't hear Joel call Sarah baby girl. Oh, we did. Yeah, we definitely did. Did you see Thunder? I know, he's over. We heard her say baby girl. I got you, baby girl. Well, I think when he pulls her out of the car, right? All of my animals are active now. Thunder. Come here. Come here. Come here. He's freaking out because the guinea pigs are freaking out. Come here. Come on. Come on. Come on. Can you? He doesn't want to get on my lap because he's like, the guinea pigs, they're squeaking. But yeah. So we had this. I like this scene. And then we had them walking away together. And he put his coat on her. And I don't know. It was a good end. It was. I really liked this episode a lot. Like a lot. With the limited time that they have had, I don't think I would change anything. I'm trying to think of something. I thought it was going to be that I missed the infected, but I didn't. I just liked it. I liked everything. I liked the extra conversations with David. I liked Buddy Boy and that being Troy Baker and his death. It was just good. I liked that they nailed a lot of the lines that I wanted in here. I'm happy with this resolution. Only thing is time as usual thing that, yes, just want things to take a bit longer. You can still feel it being rushed, 100%. I'm trying not to talk about that too much anymore just because we know it's a problem. But I can see why it's a problem. They didn't know if this was going to do well. They didn't know what the budgeting was going to be like. Or they did know what the budgeting was going to be like, but they probably didn't get a very good budget because they didn't know how the response was going to be. And so they kind of had to push through this quickly. But I think they're doing an amazing job picking the moments. And I know we're going to see Infected next episode, so that's good at least. Yeah, that's it. You can make a film using the David saga as a base. Yeah, you could. It would be, oh gosh, yeah, you really could. I don't know if I want to see it. I'm hoping the finale is long too. That's what I think, Seth. I'm hoping, like, because at first the premiere was really long, and I'm hoping the finale is really long because they're going to need it. They're going to need that time. I still miss the Infected, but it wouldn't have had to be a full-on horde of what they face in the game. Despite that, the episode was still amazing. Yeah. I can see that. Turns out it turns out that a game about mushroom zombies being turned into a show didn't need the mushroom zombie. Well, like, that's one of the things I always try to explain about The Last of Us, and that was before the show was even out, and it was clear in the first game, but it was definitely clear in the second game. I think if people kind of anytime I try to explain the idea behind The Last of Us, I very carefully tread over, like, yes, it's a shooting game. Yes, there are infected, or like you would call them zombies. However, the game is so much more than that. And I'm like I try to express it, and I was like, the only real way you'll understand is if you play it. And I think, honestly, when they break down the game, that's the parts I don't want to lose. Like, yeah, of course the infected are really cool and amazing. And it's a creepy, exciting part. But what they don't want to lose from this story is the story, like the important parts that they find or that they've made. I wonder if the town eats David. He's already cooked. Might as well. Like he's already been roasted on the campfire. I prefer that they save the snowstorm for that. Yeah. Save your money for the part 2. Season 2 won't have a lot of infected either. That game was all people, only a few. Oh man, no way. There was a lot of infected. The stalker. Okay, like let's talk about this, but not give away anything major. The stalker basement in The Last of Us Part 2 is still like one of the scariest times I've ever had in this game. The hospital, absolutely terrified in the game. Like, what, in part 2? Oh my god, it was so scary. Like, all the moments leading up to the big reveal. I don't want to say who it is. You guys know if you played. I was so scared during those moments. Like, I had a hard time getting myself to, like, push the joystick forward to go because I knew something bad was going to happen. Oh, that was so scary. And then the parts when you're, yeah, like, that's part of the, like, stalker moment. But when you're parts of Ellie and, like, the water part. I'm trying to, like, hit all the points here without giving anything away. Yeah, it's common in zombie movies, too. The zombies aren't the real source of emotion or the threat, right? It's, like, all the craziness that's because of, like, it got the ball rolling for chaos, right? But, like, it's the chaos of people that makes for a better story. Yes, Dan, that's the one. The Mouse Queen. Well, Neil and Craig said the second game will be at least 2 seasons. Perfect. Good idea. All right, guys. Well, thank you. I'm going to go feed these guinea pigs because they're squeaking at me. And all the pets and all that stuff. But you guys are awesome. Thanks for always doing this with me. We only have one more episode left. So next week's going to be our last review chat. The Squirrel Prince. The Mouse Queen. The Squirrel Prince. You guys are amazing. You have a wonderful, wonderful day. I'll see you tomorrow for some Spider-Man. And yeah, that's it. The Gerbil Duke. Write all these down. I love these. You guys are speaking code. You're like, forget venison. We've got our own names. Squeak, squeak, squeak. I know. Squeak, squeak, squeak. If you do that, they'll start going. Can you hear them? They're like at the cage with their paws up, like, food? All right, guys. On to No Guns, The Last of Us 2. Oh my gosh, take forever. All right. I'd be worried about the dogs. Anyways, have a good one, guys. Goodbye.